Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tudor Price. I'm the Chief Exec here at the Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you all this morning to this webinar looking at trading in Singapore. Could I ask those of you that have cameras that are working and are looking presentable, it'd be lovely to see your faces, just to see if there's anyone that we remember. But of course, keep your microphones on mute for the moment, just so that we don't have any disturbance of background noise. We were invited to be involved in this webinar, and I'm delighted to be hosting it here today. But of course, it's not about us, it's about the talent and the speakers that we have with us here this morning. One of the things that really prompted this is because, as you will learn later, there is now a non-stop flight to Singapore from London Gatwick, which is fantastic news. And I guess when you look at that as an opportunity, you think, well, it's not just about the business travel, both to and from, of course, because there's tourism coming back into the UK, and of course the opportunity that presents here in Kent and East Sussex as well. But of course, there's also the freight element as well. And we have producers here that might be looking to load up the underside of those planes. And as I was told many times before, it's not about the people that are on the plane, it's what's underneath their feet that really pays the bills. So we're looking to try and encourage those aspects as well. So keep a very broad mind around what it is that you're listening to and how these opportunities can develop. Just a brief introduction of our guest speakers here today. So you'll hear first from David Kelly, who is the Executive Director of the British Chamber of Commerce Singapore. It is, of course, the end of the day for them. So again, thank you very much indeed for joining us today, David. Really appreciate that. And David will be coming over to the UK fairly soon for the British Chamber of Commerce International Trade Conference, which is on the 20th of March, I believe that is. So there are still tickets available for those of you who might want to come along and have a chat to David in person. He'll be there, and we can sort of maybe set up that meeting. We'll then hear from Richard Lennard, driving force behind London Gatwick. And the person who has the patience of Job, having waited so long for the government to finally grant consent for the opening up of Gatwick North, and we are now tantalisingly close. I'm sure he'll share more about some of the other things that have got going on at the airport. And of course, from Brett North, who is the Chief Exec at the Gatwick Diamond Initiative, which is an organisation which is there to try and maximise the opportunities for inward investment into the area, but also to develop a regional economic zone, of course, off the back of the number of opportunities that having an airport on your patch presents. So those are our three speakers today. In terms of the format, we're going to kick off, as I say, with David Kelly. Unfortunately, he needs to dash off to another meeting at 9:30, so we'll be on a hard stop there. So what we're going to do is invite you to put questions into the chat as we go through the session. Once we've heard from our three speakers, we'll then open the floor up for Q&A. I have asked the speakers if they feel they can answer a question on the fly while they're doing their presentation. They are more than welcome to try and address that. So hopefully we'll get all of your questions answered. But for now, what I'd like to do is to hand over to David Kelly, Executive Director of the British Chamber of Commerce Singapore. David, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, and good morning, everybody. It's great to see so many of you on the call. And I have to say, I've done the flight from Gatwick to Singapore. It's really good, and it was much quicker than getting out of Heathrow. You'll all be pleased to know. So it's very, very, very comfortable, and great to see so much more connectivity as well. Just while Louise, my colleague from our trade services team, is just setting up the presentation, and Louise, I think you've got those brackets over the presentation again. I've been on the journey. I've been in Singapore for 10 years. I set up an entity for a maritime accreditation education business here in Singapore, and have used Singapore as the hub for that business for about just over 4 years here. Seen the opportunities, seen the growth, and now super pleased to be working with a really great team here at the British Chamber of Commerce, who are hopefully your partners in the market. I've just got a couple of sort of slides for you just to talk you through a bit about the British Chamber of Commerce, what we do, a bit about Singapore as well, a bit of an overview, some of the sectors as well. And as Tudor's mentioned, I'm back over in the UK for the BCC International Trade Conference, and I'm also in London next week as well, if anybody is around for a program with DBT to promote the APAC region to UK companies, and also I'll be travelling over to the UK with a number of my colleagues, the other CEOs of the other chambers in Southeast Asia, who will be in town as well. So we're really sort of flying the flag for Southeast Asia. So just to get it going and to give myself a bit of a start, there's a quick video just to summarise a little bit about Singapore for you.
Hello and welcome to the British Chamber of Commerce, Singapore. The Chamber is one of the best super connected networks in Singapore, supporting companies with access to connections to support business growth. Singapore offers businesses a really skilled and educated workforce, a low-tax corporate environment, a business-friendly environment with easy incorporation procedures, strong infrastructure, excellent intellectual property protection, and government support for startups and SMEs coming into the market. It's a regional hub for many businesses in the Southeast Asian region, and within 7 hours of Singapore, you can be within China, India, Australia, and everywhere in between. A market opportunity too good to miss. The technology and digital sectors are strong here, so is finance, banking, maritime, aerospace, healthcare and life sciences, and the green economy. We cherish our relationships with both the UK government here at Post and the Singapore ministries here too to support business growth. And with frameworks such as the Singapore-UK Strategic Partnership, the Green Economy Framework, the Digital Economy Agreement and recent CPTPP announcements, this is the best place for Southeast Asia for you to grow your business.
So a quick whistle-stop tour about Singapore in a nutshell, over 90 seconds, and I'll just unpick some of that. So about the Chamber, very, very quickly, we're about 350 companies strong. That they range from startups, scale-ups, through to the large MNCs, the larger brands such as Standard Chartered, HSBC, Dyson, JCB, Rentokil, etc. in the market here. It's a really a great network covering many industries across the finance and banking space, across maritime, as I've mentioned, hospitality, construction, real estate. So it's a really fabulous network to connect into. Got a series of strategic partners that I have to thank. They're the ones that keep the Chamber alive alongside our members. So they're highlighted on the screen there. But in terms of sort of our coverage, we are really lucky that we've got some great British brands within our network that help support the wider British or British community here in Singapore. But also there are some names in there that aren't so British. Microsoft are a tech partner and sit on our board here. We've got Capitaland as well, a huge real estate, Singapore Inc. owned real estate conglomerate. We've also got Temasek on the board of the Chamber as well. So really excellent network to connect your businesses into. So bilaterally, as I said in the video, there's a really strong connection between the UK and Singapore, and this is a particularly important year where we're celebrating 60 years of diplomatic relations between both countries. There's around about 6,000 UK business entities in Singapore, so it's a really rich playground and a great place where we see a number of companies set up their entities here to not only explore this market but also the wider Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific regions as well. Bilaterally, those relationships are really strong. And as a chamber, we help companies like yourselves to help navigate that in terms of what it really means. So that UK-Singapore Strategic Partnership is a 10-year programme to really make sure that there's an opportunity for us to strengthen the ties between both countries. The free trade agreement's woven into that, but the digital economy agreement was really exciting. We saw the first good in the world shipped between Sunderland in the UK to Singapore using no paper in the supply chain. It was absolutely incredible. So the digital economy piece is really exciting for businesses that are looking at sort of that sort of space. The green economy framework was signed a couple of years ago. That's really driving activity around energy transition, around green finance and carbon markets, and around transportation, whether that's electric vehicles, the infrastructure of those, electric drones, etc. It's a really, really good place to be. And then, of course, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or the CPTPP, really exciting for us. Singapore is one of those countries in the CPTPP agreement, as is Malaysia, which is just over the border. That will open up opportunities for British companies too. And one of the things that you should be asking your chambers overseas to try and help you with is, what does that mean for you? And we're asking the same questions with our counterparts at the British High Commission to ensure that we're unlocking those business-friendly opportunities for you. So one example is, if there's any alcohol producers on the call, or you know of any, there's an 80% tax saving for those that are looking to ship into Malaysia, because it opens up, because we didn't previously have a free trade agreement between the UK and Malaysia, and it's just on the doorstep to Singapore. So lots and lots of opportunity for UK companies there. So why Singapore? It's about the size of Anglesey. It's got about 6 million people on it, but it really is an innovation hub. There's a huge number of incubators, accelerators that we can plug businesses into at various stages to support the agreements that are in place bilaterally. It's also a super business-friendly environment. Every time we're in with the Ministry of Manpower and the Ministry of Trade and Industry and the Economic Development Board, we really champion how business friendly it really is here, to the point where English is the first taught language in Singapore. So there's 0 language barriers, but also that sort of connectivity that Singapore presents is just incredible. Louise keeps reminding me that whilst I say that within 7 hours of Singapore you can be in Australia, China, and India, you can be in Dubai as well, which is another market that's interesting for companies based here too. You know, that does really sort of open up great opportunities for those that want to set up here. In terms of Singapore as a regional hub, there are lots of a huge growing sort of middle income consumer market here, and I think there's a sort of a really great opportunity to connect with our colleagues across the region to understand and unpick their markets too. We see that a lot of our members here naturally use Singapore as that natural springboard to other markets. And speaking from experience, and that's exactly what I did when I was growing my previous organisation, which was to have the safety and the business friendliness of Singapore, and a small market share here, but also the fastest growing middle income market on your doorstep to be able to expand into as well, with a series of other chambers and partners that allow us to go and do that. And just to sort of demonstrate that on a slide, and it's a little bit messy, but again, within 6-7 hours, you can see the entire support network of the International British Chamber Network in this region. It really does open up opportunities for business. And I really would encourage you that if you're looking to look at other markets outside of Singapore, using Singapore as a base, very, very happy to connect you to the David and the Louise equivalents in other markets around here, who live, love and breathe, sit on the ground, know how things work, how it can really support you, and where there are opportunities for you to find potential customers, and I'll come on to that in a little bit. So some priority sectors, just to give you a little bit of a snapshot. Again, some of these were mentioned in the video, but there is Singapore's very, very good at driving its industrial transformational maps. It's all very logical. It's linked to the skill set that comes out of Singapore, and it's linked to the talent that Singapore is trying to achieve. And sort of 5 specific sectors that have sort of highlighted there around precision engineering, energy and chemicals, and aerospace, electronics, and the marine offshore space are are really important. There's also another exciting development around the Johor Singapore Special Economic Zone. So with Malaysia being so close and on our doorstep, we are seeing interest from companies that are looking at increasing their data center footprint or manufacturing capabilities into a neighboring market. And this is important for Singapore and important for businesses to know that it's not just necessarily about your Singapore plan. It should be a Singapore plus many plan in terms of your opportunities to sort of grow over here. Financial services is extremely strong here as well, whether that's in terms of asset class strength, whether it's in terms of the future of the financial networks. There's a very, very highly skilled workforce around here, around that space, to the point where there's a UK-Singapore fintech bridge that the Chamber is working on in terms of supporting companies that have got tech solutions to support the finance flow between both countries bilaterally. So another really strong capability that Singapore presents. Technology is one of the core themes that weaves through the Chamber of Commerce. There's a lot happening in terms of health tech and sports tech, fintech, as I've mentioned, trade digitalization and trade tech, as I talked about with reducing paper when you're shipping goods and services through here. There's a lot of infrastructure put into Singapore through a Deep Tech Alliance and the series of groups that you can plug into. Anybody in the tech sector, there's another group called British Tech Advocates who are affiliated to the Chamber through an MOU where we support the mentoring of tech startup leaders coming into the market as well. So a really, really strong and exciting ecosystem for businesses in the technology space too. So I just wanted to sort of give you some things that I've learned, and hopefully there's some sort of nuggets in here for you. When I was trying to navigate the market, when I first moved over here with a suitcase under one arm and a teddy bear under another, not knowing any of the network, I've done all this research, and the Chamber was brilliant when I first stepped into here as a member, trying to sort of navigate my way around the market. But as I mentioned, Singapore's really, really well structured in terms of the way it grows and the way it's looking to invest in certain sectors and how it's trying to build its skill sets. And what you can see on the slide now is all the different sectors and who the lead agency is within the Singapore government. So if any of those apply to you, have a look at their websites, have a look at the Ministry of Trade and Industry's website as well in terms of their industry transformational maps, because it will give you a really, really clear idea about where Singapore's investing, where their opportunities are, and where you might be able to partner. And of course, if you're coming to market and you're wanting to utilize the Chamber to help to connect you to these agencies, that's absolutely something that we can do as well. But definitely worth some desk research in a slightly cooler UK than it is here in Singapore. In terms of government procurement and some of the major projects that are going on, they're all publicised through a website called GBiz. Now, to sign into GBiz and actually pitch for these contracts, you need to have a local entity here in Singapore, or if you have a partner company, that's a good way of sort of accessing some of the procurement opportunities and some of the contracts that are coming up. But what I would say is it's a great resource to kind of show you the types of contracts that are being awarded in Singapore at the moment. So have a look at the GBiz website for to see some of the major projects, some of the things that they're looking to buy, and of course there are contact details in there too, which you might want to reach out to separately. So a bit of a nugget for when I first moved over that allowed me to see some of the maritime things that were going on and where they were looking to invest in terms of education, etc. But it's a really, really good resource that's at your fingertips too. There's also lots and lots of grants here. Singapore is looking for really progressive, innovative startups, SMEs, companies coming into the market. And there are a series of grants available through Enterprise Singapore. They cover sort of the development of your entity, helping you to grow and to scale, and also sort of productivity solutions as well, and innovation grants. So it's worth exploring those. And again, the Chamber can help signpost you to opportunities there. Again, it's some of these are around building partnerships with local entities, unless you have an entity here yourself, which you can get access to some of those grants. One such grant is the UK-Singapore Collaborative R&D Call. The dates at the bottom are slightly out of date from last year, but the programme is still in place. And there are opportunities around companies that are trying to drive a climate change agenda, trying to look at some of the sustainability challenges that are sort of presenting the world at the moment, and sort of Singapore's competitiveness in that too. And this is a great program that allows you to partner with a local entity to pull together on both of your expertise and IP to build great relationships here and to help grow in scale. So in terms of the Chamber's support, how do we actually help businesses? Well, we do it in a couple of ways. The first is around super connecting across our network. We are living and breathing business here on the ground through our member companies, but also all of our engagements across all of our stakeholders, whether that's with the Singapore government, with local entities, groups like the Singapore Business Federation, other chambers as well. We really do support our network and companies coming into the market by helping you to shortcut how we can get you in front of the right people. We're not just a content business, although our events they're awesome. Of course they are, but they're all driven by a number of the businesses in our network, which are always forward thinking about the next opportunity, connecting industries together. And through our relationships with the likes of the Department of Business and Trade and with our counterparts in the Singapore government too, there's a great network there that we can plug you into. We also have a series of business committees, and these are all driven by industry for industry that we sort of drive. So whether that's in the built environment and looking at infrastructure projects and green buildings and AI in building structures, through to healthcare and life sciences and health tech, through to marketing communications and sort of media businesses and PR firms are looking to come through, right through to transport, logistics and supply chain, covering shipping, logistics, etc. These committees are made for business, by business, and are super to connect to if you're looking to explore the market. Finally, we have a trade services offering, so we can help with trade missions, we can support with your market entry, we can help you with making access or helping you to sort of connect to your potential market, and we can also help with on some specific projects for you as well. We've worked with a number of companies, whether that's Jaguar Land Rover, some of the schools that have been setting up here, Mott MacDonald, building tech accelerators as well. We work with a whole range of businesses that come through here that have very specific requirements, and we work with those companies on a program to help them to scale, help them to grow, and help them to make the return on their investment that they've made into their expansion plans into Singapore. So what does that exactly look like? And if you're interested, well, we're happy to work with the Chamber here to set up a scoping call to really understand whether this is the right market for you. Sometimes it isn't, and that's an honest conversation that we do have with companies that are coming through. And then we try and identify where some of your business challenges are, what are stopping you from expanding into the region, what some of your concerns might be, what your plans might be over the next 3, 5, 10 years in terms of where your growth might be. and therefore how we can then support you to identify who you need to go and talk to, how you go and build those relationships, and how we can help you to maintain those opportunities in the market. We can also support with things like horizon scanning in other areas as well, and obviously connections to the other chambers in Southeast Asia as well. So with that, I hope that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour. It is a super exciting market, lots going on. Please do reach out to myself or to Louise, and hope to see some of you in London over the next couple of weeks.
David, that was fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Really, really informative. Yeah, excellent. There's a little round of applause there going on. Yeah, brilliant. I mean, I didn't know quite as much as I did. I thought I did about Singapore. So it's really, really informative. I know that when we look at the call attendees today, we've got a range of different interests, really, from service companies to perhaps inbound tourism to sort of freight and obviously personal services as well. I think some food and drink as well. It's quite a broad mix of people here involved. From just a very, very sort of basic stuff. I mean, you mentioned there was sort of a strong, reasonably wealthy middle class side of things. Is it politically stable? You know, what sort of things have we got in terms of corporation tax and stuff like that? Are there sort of other bits and pieces you can share on?
It's really stable to set up your business. In fact, we see a lot of companies sort of setting up their regional entity here for the political stability and the ease of doing business, the ease of corporation, the ease of setting everything up. It is pretty stable here. Corporate tax is pretty low. It's a flat rate of 17%. It's one of the most competitive in the world, I think, and that is to lure the very best and innovative companies into Singapore and keep them here as well. So yeah, it's a logical place if you're looking at Southeast Asia as a market for your business to grow. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I know Louise very kindly is sticking around to take some questions at the end, so we'll park that for now. We'll let you get away, David. I know you're a busy guy, but thank you very much indeed for sharing your time with us today. Are we okay to share the slides, this presentation afterwards?
100%. Yeah, no problem at all with that.
That's tremendous, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you on March the 20th over in London. Thank you very much indeed, David.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a great day ahead.
Bye-bye. So as David leaves us and heads off, as I mentioned, Louise will be staying around towards the end of the presentations to then take any questions that you have. If at any point you want to get in touch with David and his team directly, you can go through any one of the chambers that are sort of behind this initiative here today. So we've got Sussex Chamber of Commerce, Anna's on the call here. We've got Surrey, London, and of course Kent. All of us are working and collaborating around the opportunity that is Gatwick, London Gatwick, and this connection to Singapore. So any one of those chambers will be able to make those introductions and help support you as you look to find new opportunities. So we're going to move across to Richard Lennard next. Richard is Head of Economic Partnerships at London Gatwick. He's got a wealth of experience, and as I said, he is one of the more patient men I've ever met as they move towards. But they've not been idle. There's been a lot of things going on, and obviously Singapore is one of those wonderful opportunities that we're here to talk about today. So, Richard, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Tudor. So good morning. I'm Richard Lennard, Economic Partnerships Manager at London Gatwick, and a number of my colleagues are on the call as well. So we've got Ian Nash from our airlines team, Austin Simons from my team as well. So we're all happy to answer any questions that you might have in the chat or in the Q&A at the end. So we're delighted to be collaborating with the Chambers of Commerce from Kent Invicta, Sussex Chamber, Surrey Chambers and London Chamber of Commerce and Industry on this Trading in Singapore webinar today. I will just share my screen. I have a presentation with a few slides to give you an overview of our operation as well as this route into Singapore. So one of our 10 goals in the airport's second decade of change and sustainability policy is to be a partner and an advocate for a thriving, resilient local economy, and we're committed to maximising the benefits that an international airport can offer local businesses. Working with the public and private sector, we're currently establishing a Gatwick Region Airport Economic Zone, and we'll be attending the UK Real Estate Investment Infrastructure Forum in Leeds later this year alongside our associate partner Gatwick Diamond Initiative. Both of these projects aiming to drive long-term sustainable economic growth and future inward investment in our region. Our vision is to be the airport for everyone, whatever your journey, and to achieve that aim, the airport is therefore continuing to grow our route network. With more routes to Asia from London Gatwick than ever before, the potential for expanding international trade in the local economy is substantial. and we're keen to showcase how businesses in the region can take advantage of these expanding connections to offer fresh business opportunities, and to demonstrate how these links to global markets can further benefit the local economy through both exports and imports of goods, as well as through the exchange of knowledge and ideas. A key recent development at London Gatwick has been the addition of the direct route to Singapore, serviced by Singapore Airlines from summer 2024. So in terms of an overview of the airport and our operation, with more than 43 million annual passengers, London Gatwick is the UK's second largest and one of Europe's top 10 airports. We're the 8th largest in Europe and 5th strongest for long haul. It's a vital piece of national infrastructure that drives both the national and regional economies by generating 5.5 billion gross value add and over 76,000 jobs across the UK. The airport's located 28 miles south of London and is extremely well connected, with more than a quarter of England's population, that's 15 million people, including all of London, less than 1 hour away by road or rail. We have a 6-year, £2 billion sustainable growth programme, and that includes an ambitious plan to be a net zero airport by 2030 and to increase capacity by bringing the airport's existing northern runway into routine use alongside our main runway. And just last week, the government announced that they're minded to approve the plans to bring the northern runway into routine use, with a final decision date due in October. Almost 60 airlines fly from the airport to over 150 short-haul and more than 50 long-haul destinations in 70 countries. And so with a declared capacity of 55 movements an hour, London Gatwick is the most efficient single runway airport in the world. And you can see here a range of the carriers that operate from Gatwick to meet our vision to be the airport for everyone. We've got a range of carriers from low-cost, hybrid, full service, long-haul, short-haul and domestic. And of course, in the centre there, Singapore Airlines. So my next slide summarises Singapore Airlines service schedule and product. We've got Charlotte from Singapore Airlines on the call, so I'm sure she'll be happy to answer any questions in the chat if you have them, or in the Q&A later. But I've just highlighted here some of the key statistics for this exciting route. We're really delighted to have welcomed one of the leading carriers to London Gatwick last year, an award-winning carrier with a reputation for the highest service standards. We fly to the hub at Changi, and that provides onward connections to Asia and Australasia. It's currently a 5-weekly service, but we're very pleased to announce that it's going to be a daily service from the 30th of March. The flight times are on the screen there. It's a 12-hour and 50-minute flight, I believe. It's on the Airbus A350-900 aircraft. That has 253 seats with 3 cabins: business, premium, economy and economy. We're very pleased that that offers us the opportunity for the first time to offer a premium economy service into Asia. The business class, PPS, KrisFlyer, Elite Gold members can all benefit from the North Terminal number 1 lounge as well. And then the final slide shows the connectivity. So Singapore Airlines and its subsidiary Scoot serve a total of 127 destinations in 36 countries. And from London Gatwick, due to the early arrival time into Singapore, those onward connections to Southeast Asia and Australia destinations are very convenient. So that brings me to the end of my short overview of the airport and London Gatwick. Happy to take any questions in the chat, as I said, and now very interested to hear from our next speaker to find out more about the opportunities that our route can offer.
Richard, thank you very much indeed. And I know from personal experience that actually the language and the flight times in terms of when you depart and when you arrive can make a huge difference as to whether or not you choose to go to one particular location over another. So the fact that you can sort of fly, as it were, overnight and arrive and be fresh. Anyone that's flown to Tokyo will know just how miserable it can be for a couple of days as you're bouncing around trying to work out what time of day it is. So those sort of adjustments are incredibly beneficial. So thank you very much indeed, Richard. Okay, so we're going to move across to Brett North now. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about the opportunities in Singapore. Part of Brett's remit, of course, is to try and encourage some inward investment. So that might look like tourism. It might look like sort of freight and opportunities. So there's some other bits and pieces, but I'll let Brett get into the detail on that. So can I introduce to you, please, Brett North, who is the Chief Exec of the Gatwick Diamond Initiative. Brett, over to you, sir.
Peter, thank you very much indeed. Let me just share my screen and let's hope the world of technology will allow us to work. Can everyone see that? Can everybody see that?
I think when we
Everyone
did
see
our
me?
test earlier, we had mixed views, so we can see the slides and we can hear you. So I think we'll press forward on that basis, I think.
We're press forward, are we? Okay, fine. So Gatwick, so thank you very much. So Gatwick Diamond Initiative, let me briefly explain who we are. So we are an organisation that's been around for a number of years now, 3 decades. Our two things that we're really looking for is that driving inward investment and looking for opportunities for businesses to grow and to come up with collaborations and how to bring inward investment into the UK, but also opportunities for leveraging what they're doing overseas as well. So I think that's great. We are a strategic partner, London Gatwick. We're very grateful for working with them because of the opportunities that they've been able to give us. We've been able to provide quite a lot of support and work with organisations to help them look at attracting inward and other investment opportunities. I personally done business in Singapore a long time ago, and it's great to hear that sort of refreshing look at it. And I can say that it is a great opportunity for businesses to look at. And you know, if you get a chance to talk certainly to the Chambers team there and others, I'd seriously recommend doing that. I think when we look at Gatwick Diamond in Singapore, let's look at some of the things that really work for us both. We're both strategic business hubs with strong international connectivity, and I think there's a lot of areas where we're seeing high UK growth in the region and gateway opportunities. Let's remember that Gatwick Diamond is also a great gateway opportunity to other places in the UK and for many businesses to Europe and others. And there is already a very strong historical trade and investment ties between UK and Singapore, and also a number of businesses in our region. So I think this is a really interesting opportunity for those of you who are looking for either attracting partnerships or inward investment from outside. And we've already heard about the strong and interesting finance market that exists there, but also opportunities in advanced manufacturing, digital economy, and other areas that the region does really well in. So let me look at some of the opportunities that I think advanced manufacturing, we've already seen that as being a very strong space for Singapore. And that's again where we've got a lot of aerospace, automotive and engineering expertise in the region, which is really, really strong. So if you're looking or you have clients or looking around that sort of area, I think it's really, really strong that there could be some really great joint venture opportunities for you. And I think that's really where if you're looking to attract inward investment or other partners for something that you're looking to commercialize or extend your market overseas, or back the other way, look for interesting companies in Singapore who are looking to open up. And we've had a number of inquiries from Asia Pacific businesses who are looking for opportunities to open up in the area. And I think that's a really strong piece to forget. Trade is a two-way thing, and the route works both ways. So really look and think about how you can do that. Particularly advanced manufacturing. We're already leveraging some of the defense and other industries that are seeing growth in the region. Creative industries, as you saw from the presentation that the Chamber gave, there's a really strong creative strata running through Singapore. It's a hugely interesting market for that. So where we've got companies, so we've got a lot of businesses currently who are around AI, fintech, cybersecurity solutions. There's opportunities for us to share and trade and attract investment in, or get Singapore companies to collaborate in this immersive media and digital market space, which is really critical for the region. We're seeing strong growth in our digital and creative industries. Horsham, which seems like a really sleepy town, actually hosts one of the world's largest gaming industries. So there's a lot of that sort of bits and pieces of business around that is really, really strong. And I also think there's a great opportunities for partnering in smart cities and data analytic opportunities as well. The other great market opportunity was sustainable technology. We're seeing in the region huge amount of interest in EV technology and carbon reduction technology, and investors looking to invest there, and partners from outside, so particularly from Asia and other parts, looking for places in the UK to come and land their business opportunities here. So I think that's a really interesting area. If you've got land or opportunities there, or you know clients or others that have got opportunities in space, or you can come into that EV technology and smart grid piece, that's a great opportunity to look at developing operations potentially with Singaporean partners. The financial and professional services piece, well, that's something we have in common. You know, we are very lucky both in the Diamond in Kent, Surrey, Sussex, to have really great access to one of the most dynamic financial markets certainly in Western Europe, and Singapore arguably in the Far East. So that's a really interesting point for us to leverage. And I think it's important when we're looking at overseas markets, let's look at areas of commonality that we can develop and move forward on. So Singaporean firms are going to set up operations in the UK, and UK European market access is really important. So when we're thinking about structures like logistics and how we can help them get involved in this part of the world is really, really important for them. Obviously, leveraging your chamber for your cross-border advisory services for trade, etc. So I think it's a really strong opportunity there. Life sciences has always been a key market hub, not only in Singapore but also in the Gatwick Diamond. For those of you who know that we lead the world in a number of medtech operations, but particularly around about cancer care, biopharmaceuticals. But there's a huge piece also in looking at how AI-driven diagnostics can represent an investment opportunity both ways into that. It's a piece that's really growing really strong in the Asian market, and it's an area that we have a lot of startups starting around in the Diamond area, particularly around about the biotech and some pharmaceutical placements as well. Logistics and supply chain. This is a really great place if you are sitting in Singapore to look at further onward, particularly if you're looking at the cargo operations out of the route that is through Singapore, and you've got the logistics hub that sits next to Gatwick Airport. That is Manor Royal, almost unrivaled, but also much closer to the UK markets, places, and getting around. So great opportunity there for hub opportunities. So for logistics businesses, if you're looking at those opportunities, those Singaporean firms and connections prove to be really useful. And let's not forget there's trade and investment incentives. The UK-Singapore Free Trade Agreement, CPTPP, which is obviously a bit of a mouthful for me. So Singapore might seem like a long way away, but actually using the contacts you've got on this call and others, there's actually a lot of green light opportunities, as we saw earlier, to think about Singapore as a safe and interesting place to enter business. It's politically stable. There's a lot of history about trade between the countries, and we have a lot of shared business opportunities already that are working. So it's a really great place if you're looking to expand your business or looking to attract maybe an investor from outside the region that's looking to invest in you. And obviously, as we've already heard, the Gatwick Airport's connectivity is really, really useful for that business connectivity piece. So again, looking at where are we looking at as a region? Advanced manufacturing, digital economy, green tech, finance. There's a lot going on that mirrors what's happening. And often when you're trying to look at a foreign investment opportunity, or you're looking to attract investors from outside the UK that may be interested in growing, or you're looking at setting up a collaborative joint venture operation for someone who has a market opportunity in Europe but doesn't know how to do that, I think Singapore operates a really good opportunity for you to do that, because of the fact that you've got a shared language, you've got shared already experiences of trading over years, and you've also got the great connections that are offered by the airport. And that, as they say, for me, is that. So I'm going to end there.
Brett, thank you very much indeed. And again, really informative and some fantastic connections which everyone can sort of follow up on. So there's a number of things to sort of cover off. Obviously, we've looked at 3 different presentations. There's obviously these sort of big infrastructure projects and the sort of things that we're involved with here with Gatwick. There is obviously the Singapore connection. That's fantastic. We can sort of look at maybe setting up businesses or doing business further afield in Asia. We have the airport itself. You know, there is a massive opportunity there for economic growth and development. And of course, the impact that has in the surrounding area, which includes West Kent, Surrey, London, and Sussex, of course. There is so much that can come from this, and sometimes it gets very confusing. So I would encourage people now to ask questions. There's no such thing as a daft question. It can be as simple and as straightforward as you like. Please do ask questions. We'll invite you to put your hand up, take you off mic, and then you can ask your question of whomever. I would also highlight as well that what we find in these webinars now is the number of post-event downloads is quite significant. So again, I'm going to ask a few questions which will be for the benefit of those who aren't currently live, but will be watching this later on, because we know that actually in the past we've actually had more downloads than we've had attendees quite often. So some real value in what we're doing here today as well. Brilliant. Okay, first of all, I'll open this up to any questions from the floor. So put your hand up if you have a question. As anticipated, a few shy people there. I'm just going to ask you a question, first of all, around the inbound sort of tourism aspect of things. Do we know, and I guess I'm going to ask this of Louise possibly, do we know if there is an appetite for the leafy lanes of Kent and the historic castles that we have in Sussex and Kent and Surrey? Is that the sort of thing that is of appeal to the Singaporeans, do we know?
I don't know, to be honest, where Singaporeans tend to travel, specifically in the UK beyond London. That's something perhaps we could champion more. I was actually going to ask, kind of intrigued by Brett's experience and any specific kind of case studies that he's aware of within your areas of a Singaporean company. Something we want to champion a bit more, but it's frankly less accessible, some information in those details. We know that Singapore obviously operates across London and has operations actually in some European counterparts, particularly post-Brexit. That's actually affected some of the operations, frankly. But I mean, it's something, this is why this engagement is really important, to kind of highlight not just the commercial opportunities, but wider appeals with the tourism sector. So I could do a bit of homework tutoring and find out some more specifics.
That'd be helpful. Is Singapore a Muslim country? Sorry, I should know this, but
no, well, we have 4 faiths here that are celebrated equally. So it's all kind of quartered out. So we have the Malay ethnicities that celebrated. So Ramadan's very much acknowledged and celebrated equally as Chinese New Year and the Christian calendar, for example.
So it's not all lost for the wine industries that are springing up around here in the southeast.
No. And actually, like what David said, picking up on that, using the Malaysia and the CPTPP benefit for operating with Singapore, and then it's the JB, which is just north of Singapore, unleashes opportunities in the alcoholic space, actually, F&B.
I think I was going to say food and drink rather than alcoholic, but I know where you're coming from. Yeah. Richard, from your side, obviously you monitor data as to who's moving where and when. Also, do you have any sort of interesting stats or any analysis around the destination or end destination for Singaporeans?
No, I don't think so. We have 5.5 million international inbound passengers a year into London Gatwick, but we don't have data to show where they go to. We obviously want to make sure that as many of those spend time in the southeast as possible, and that's why we've set up the Gateway Gatwick partnership back in 2018 to encourage passengers to spend time in Sussex, Surrey and Kent. And we know that, as Anna's pointed out in the chat, that the wine industry in this region is incredibly important, and so that links into the tourism industry as well. And there's a great opportunity there with the Sussex wine strategy to really make stronger connections internationally through trade and tourism.
Fantastic. And I know Darius from InExpress is on the line. I'll come to you in a second.
Thanks.
Darius is on the line here as well. I know for InExpress and they're moving goods. So maybe Darius, if you start tapping up some of the wine vineyards in and around Kent with a view to maybe opening up routes of export to Singapore for you, that could be a way to sort of move forward. Brett, you wanted to add some information?
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Louise. Yeah, we do have a medtech business actually that's got strong links, and they've shared some work, and I'll have a word with them and see if they're happy to share on a wider basis. Coming back to that piece that you talked about, Tudor, on the wine front, and that does. The viticulture industry is really important because not only is it an access in, we did an investment into a vineyard in Kent actually about 3 years ago now, a small opportunity, but it was an opportunity that money certainly from overseas is looking at to develop, but also around that was food and beverage operation in that vineyard. There was also hospitality piece. So I think the viticulture piece sort of sort of straddles two pieces. It's got that agricultural piece, that wine piece, but also leverages the fact that it becomes a destination for people who are interested in wine, and we're certainly seeing more of that. But in general terms, one of the largest interests that we've had has been actually around tourism and leisure operations, particularly leveraging the South Coast opportunities. And some of the areas of outstanding natural beauty that Kent, Sussex, and both Sussex and Kent share, and Surrey.
Right, thank you, Darius. You popped your light screen on, and you popped your camera on. So, just curious to know, what's your interest in Singapore?
Well, I'm interested. Hello, first of all.
Hi,
nice to see you guys and everything. Sorry, I'm in the car because I'm going to a meeting shortly, actually, after this webinar. Yeah, I'm still getting the roots into this new business I started work for last month, actually, in January, actually. Even today I have a meeting with, let's say, a distributor of high-end spirits and wines as well from Essex, actually. So hopefully I can get them on to start trying with us within Express Tonbridge, because they're quite a high shipper. I haven't been too much in the vineyard section, let's say, industry in Kent, although I live in Kent. So, but it's gonna be a next target for this month on top of what I'm doing. So yeah, I think there's a lot of scope in it, because you can connect it from packaging manufacturers to wine distribution to spirit distribution. So it depends. Yeah. So bringing Singapore in, basically, because our only issue is that's not the issue, is it has to be UK entities for companies. So we do imports, exports, and domestic and international for pallets, cargos, and freights, but they have to be in basically UK entities. So I can work with some, we can do cross countries, but for financial safety, it's a bit tricky for nowadays. I'm still getting onto these things because I have a lot of prospects in my mind, which I met recently. So we'll see how it's going to go. But I'll have to have a look at your entire webinar probably later on in the evening, because I was on a phone call before the webinar itself. So
we're none the wiser, Darius. You didn't have to explain. You're okay. But yeah, and again, you've got a lot of people around the room, of course, who'd be more than happy to sort of give you their insight into benefits as to how they can possibly help moving forward. So brilliant, Darius. Thank you. Just in terms of, Louise, did you want to mention something?
Sorry, yeah, I'm just not great multitasking with the chat, but just on the wines and goods, there is a real interest in F&B in Singapore. It's quite a tough market in terms of finding the right distributor and it not sitting in a warehouse for a long time. And it depends what model you want to adopt in terms of having a local agent here and using a distributor that suits your model and sustained model. But it's a high-end, there's opportunity, particularly in the high-end market, high net worth individuals, luxury hotels, and sort of members clubs as well here that are interesting prospects to, I think, navigate for nice wines.
Excellent, that's good to know. Cara?
Get myself off mute. Just like future states was like having some kind of like within the chamber network, a Singapore hub, like where you've got a desk that people can go to, because I know that something like this, there's a lot more of our customers that probably are interested in this that haven't got the time at the moment to join this call. But if you had, I know that other chambers have like Japanese trading desks, and potentially that's because they have got the airline that's the direct routes, whereas we can play off the fact that we've got Gatwick on our doorstep. Great to hear that there's an increase in the flights as well. And it's like, I suppose the time difference is a little bit different, but also like being able to do like maybe networking sessions, like is there any specific initiatives that are out there, getting the industry connections of like where we kind of our key areas like play into the Singapore. I know that they're talking about the gaming community like in Horsham. Is there interest over in Singapore for that? I think it'd be interesting to delve into this deeper to find out like where we cross paths and play in that and have something in future state to collaborate together.
I think you're actually some good questions there, Cara. Thank you. And you're absolutely right. I mentioned obviously it's actually quite a broad subject when you start looking from an inward investment perspective, when you start looking at tourism and hospitality, from an export perspective, from an expansion perspective, there is so many elements to it. You're right. We can't do it justice in just sort of an hour's worth of sort of presentations. But yeah, the key really is to make sure that people know where to go to get that information and how we can try and expand on this. And I'm sure we'll be discussing with Brett, Louise, and Richard in the following weeks how we can continue to explore all of that. Louise, did you want to just sort of come back? Obviously, are you used to just getting random inquiries from small providers and producers here in the?
Yes, but actually, I think that's a really good good point Cara's just made about the kind of not funneling, but the awareness and the education piece of just having cross-sector and just through 3 different entities sharing the experience and the synergies coming out is just a really helpful exercise. And then I receive inquiries or interest word of mouth locally, randomly through the UK system, through one of the chambers, or the UK High Commission DBT network's pretty strong. It's just drips and drabs. I don't think that will change necessarily, but I think through enhanced engagement, and I think the BCC International Trade Conference next week, and as David said, not just him but his counterparts of the Southeast Asia region are going back to kind of beat the drum of this part of the world. And as we were talking to you before the meeting officially started, briefly, given the wider experience in world politics at the moment, actually perhaps there's an opportunity to highlight the opportunities in other jurisdictions such as Asia that hasn't necessarily been explored. But it's around this just working together to unpick and highlight the opportunity and then draw out the synergies, I think. But I also think there's a point to be made of the talking shop's one thing, and actually navigating and understanding what your business interest, ability, appetite. It's not cheap to do business in Singapore. So there's kind of a commitment of when are you right to actually take the kind of commitment to come for a program visit, a scoping visit, take the commitment to exhibit under a pavilion, and work out how that's going to fit in, particularly for smaller businesses.
Absolutely, Louise, you're absolutely right. And that's really helpful. Thank you very much, Neil. And again, demonstrates your insight into the market and sort of the types of businesses that sort of considerations they need to put into play here. I think just for the benefit of those in the room, we were talking prior to you all joining around the economic political instability around the world at the moment. And as was highlighted in the slides from David, there is quite a large number of investment portfolios sat in Singapore, and they are looking for safe places to put their money right now. So there's every opportunity that you might possibly start reaching out to potential investors in Singapore to actually help with your venture here in the UK. So keep that open in mind. I'm watching the clock. It is 2 minutes to 10. So it would be remiss of me not to finish on time, given that we're all very, very busy people. We will circulate the slides for these presentations after the event. The recording will be edited and published onto the Chamber's website. There will be a lot more to share with you from ourselves and other chambers, and of course our guest speakers over the following months. So please do watch the various events websites. If you can make it to the International Trade Conference on the 20th of March in London, it is well worth attending, because you can literally sit and have a cup of tea and a chat with some people that really know their onions, and they can answer some of the questions that you might have. But for now, thank you very much indeed to our speakers. Thank you very much to you for giving your time here today. And if you have any questions, please reach out to your local chamber. Thank you very much indeed. Goodbye.